one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So we're now prepared to take oral communications regarding anything that's not appearing on the agenda. Now is the time to, if you're in Zoom, to raise your hand and we will call on you. Your comments may be up to 4 minutes. And again, the comments are not related to anything on the agenda. And that would include the presentations for our honored staff. Those are on the agenda. So we will ask for those comments in a few minutes. Anybody wishing to speak? Okay. In attendance, Peter Lay, if you would like to unmute yourself, you have up to 4 minutes to address the board. Thank you for being here.
Good evening, on the directors. I submit a written notice of claim and demand of reimbursement with the district. I also filed with the York Council office, Mr. Masuda and Mr. Hobbs. So on August 29, I received a letter from the customer service notifying me that the district will charge me 7 SCF per month for my sewer flow. Then when I receive my monthly water bill, I only use 60 SCF. So that means that the water district overcharged me the 1 SCF for last month. And I explained the reason in my letter to the board and the district legal council in December, January, February. We had a lot of visitors and guests, so my consumption of the water will be high compared with the rest of the year. So I'm telling the district and the board that your method to charge me on the average sewer flow is too high and not correct. And I raised this issue during the public hearing, and you didn't listen and comment. The rate consultant recommended, ratepayer install a second meter to measure the outdoor water meter. So what I want to ask the board is to look at my claim and provide some response. At the last board meeting, Mr. Hobbs told the board that he will work with the general manager to draft a process and procedure to respond to questions from ratepayers. But I haven't received any response from the customer service or the district. So I have to conclude that the district discriminate against me, a minority. If I were a white man, I should have received several calls for district and the email or letter from district already. So I believe that the district continue to practice racism, hidden racism against minority ratepayers. So I want to ask the board to address my claim, because my experience is that the board actually have a culture of hidden racism at the district, and that's my observation for several years, and I asked the board to address it. So the bottom line is I explain to you the overcharge of the sewer flow on my house. And I would like to the board direct the general manager to address and provide a response. And I also asked the board to talk with the district council to address my claim and my demand for reimbursement. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you. Any other person wishing to speak? I see another hand up by the name Peter. If you want to unmute yourself, you have up to 4 minutes. They disappear. Okay. Any other comments? Anybody in the room would like to speak to the board on matters not on the agenda? Not seeing anybody rushing to the podium, we're going to close our oral communications. At the time when we do oral communications, it's inappropriate for staff or legal counsel to respond. And so there is no response at this particular time. And also with regard to pending litigation, those matters are not discussed in open session. We are now ready to move on to presentations. And our first is a resolution and a presentation regarding Barbara Montani, who has been with the district for 25 years. And Mary is going to start us, and we are very interested to hear what you're going to tell us.
So good evening, board, fellow staff, and the public. Tonight I am proud to presenting our customer service supervisor, Barbara Montani, as she celebrates 25 years with the district. Yes, 25 years. We joined the district back in August 1999 as customer service assistant. In December 2011, she got promoted to customer service representative 2. And in October 2016, she moved up to the customer service billing supervisor position. So Barb oversees the district's customer service, billing, and meter reading functions, and she has 7 employees under her. So Barb played a crucial role in the successful implementation of our new billing and payment software, InfoSend, which has streamlined payment collection operations. And Barb also managed the implementation of the new rates and structure for sewer and water, ensuring that changes were smoothly integrated into the existing system. Barb is super nice. She's always calm and truly cares for her customers, and you can see her kindness when she assists customers. And this is exactly the kind of representation that we need for the district. And with that, we want to thank you, Barb, for 25 years of service.
Okay. Oh, flowers.
Yep, she's raising the bar.
I'm honored to receive this award and deeply grateful to the district for all the motivation and encouragement you have given me throughout the years. I want to thank my manager, Mary, for her support and the support of my amazing team, Lisa, Kayla, Bolin, Ruby, Fagan, and Joelle. I thank you for this. Great.
So the board is asked to consider an adoption of a resolution, recognition of Barbara Montani, customer service billing supervisor for her 25 years of service to the Marina Coast Water District. The resolution appearing on page 3. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So move.
Vice President, Director Schreiner has moved, and our Director Tom Moore has seconded. So, any discussion about the motion?
I just want to congratulate you, Barb, on 25 years. That's a huge accomplishment. You don't see a 25-year span very long, fairly this much these days. So congratulations. It's been an honor to work with you these last 7.5 years. We look forward to you beating Tony in 43 years.
And because she started at age 10, she might.
Yeah.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to comment before we vote? Or we will go to a vote and then hear comment.
Okay.
Okay, so, roll call.
Director Cortez is absent. Director Imamura,
Yes.
Director Moore,
Yes.
Vice President Schreiner,
Yes.
President Morton.
Yes. So the motion passes, the resolution passes, and at this time, we're going to invite individuals that would like to speak with us to come to the podium because we are anxious to hear what you have to offer. What happened?
Yeah. We have to say we for French for home.
Oh,
I don't know.
I don't speak the French. So we're gonna have comment and then read the resolution.
Okay.
It's a little out of order, I'm sorry, but I already invited you to talk, so go.
No, it's fine. I don't know that I need to go to the photo book, but Barb was there when I first showed up at Reservation Road. She is fabulous. I can't echo enough how pleasant it is to work with you and your team, but also the care that you give them and our customers. I mean, I've never had a survey that had customer service without flaw. Your department did that. And I've been doing this for 2 decades plus. And so that's a huge accomplishment. And, I think you're fantastic. And so thank you for all your service. Thank you for your service to this community. And thank you for your caring. I truly appreciate it. And 25 years.
Breathtaking. Anybody else? So we will now read the resolution. Resolved by the Board of Directors of the Marina Coast Water District at our meeting duly called today at Second Street. Whereas Barbara Montanti, excuse me, Barbara, I'm sorry. I'm gonna start again. Whereas Barbara Montanti has been an invaluable asset to the Marina Coast Water District for the past 25 years. Having joined the district on August 26, 1999.
And whereas Barbara has demonstrated exceptional dedication and skill in her various roles, evolving from a customer service assistant to her current position as customer service / billing supervisor. And whereas in her current role, Barbara has been instrumental in overseeing the district's customer service billing and meter reading functions. And her kind-hearted nature and genuine care for the district have always been her greatest soft skill.
And whereas Barbara played a crucial role in the successful implementation of the new payment software InfoSam, which has streamlined payment collection operations and managed the implementation of new rates and structures for sewer and water, ensuring that changes were smoothly integrated into the existing system. And whereas Barbara's extensive institutional knowledge comes in handy when troubleshooting customer or staff inquiries, ensuring that issues are resolved efficiently and effectively, and reflecting her commitment to both her role and the community she serves.
Tom? Yep. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Marina Coast Water District is hereby recognize and honor Barbara Montanti for her 25 years of dedicated service to the district. And we're going to present you with a plaque and a gift card. And you got some beautiful flowers, and hopefully you are receiving all the love and praise that's coming from this room in your direction. Thank you for your service. So, you know what, do you mind if we do our second one and then we'll break and we're gonna take some beautiful photos and perhaps eat some cookies? Is that acceptable? Perfect. Mr. Hudson, can you wait that long too? Okay, that resolution is passed, and now we are moving on. And we have Derek Craig with regard to our agenda item 5B, which is honoring Travis Insweiler. Am I saying that correctly? That one is harder than the other. And thank you for starting this off.
Good evening, board. I'm here to roast, congratulate Ben Weiler on 5 years with the district. Travis, I do not have flowers, but I do have my challenger that you can drive around a little bit. But no, so we're here to recognize Ben Weiler on 5 years of service and dedication to the district. So Travis started September 3rd, 2019, and he was hired as a lead operator with the district. So prior to coming to the district, Travis worked for SoCal Creek Water for 5 years, or actually longer, I think. But he had a lot of experience that he brought with him. And then the good thing was he had an outside. Sometimes that's good to have because us operators kind of get stuck in their old ways and habits. And having someone from the outside with fresh ideas really helps to change things up and to help change the culture. Pretty significant culture shock about 7 years ago. So Travis has been instrumental in helping lead some substantial projects. Some of the notable ones I'm going to talk about, there's many of them, but there's 3 of them that stick out in mind. The first one is Hatton Lift Station. This was a big project. I've talked about this before, but it's something I'm really proud of the operations staff in performing. This was essentially a brand new lift station that they put in, a replacement. This is a new wet well, new MCC, new valve pits, replacement of some force main, basically from the ground up, a whole new station. Another one that Travis was the lead on and performing some of the work in-house along with working with the contractor was our pressure reducing valve rebuilds. So this was a project that was done back in 2020. There are 2 main reasons for this project that needed to be done. One, we never did any maintenance on our PRV stations, so some of those were 20 years. These are in the ground usually, sight unseen, right? So typical MO is, work on until it fails, and it fails and causes a lot of trouble. So we were trying to prevent that. The second reason that this project was important was we were taking the intermediate reservoir offline for RECO. And so these PRVs were extremely critical to keep the system pressurized. If one PRV failed, then we would have been out of water within a zone. So it was very important to get these things rebuilt. And they were essentially a full rebuild from the pilot system to the internal mechanisms. And 20 sites got done. And so that was a project that Travis was the lead on. And then another project that I'm really proud of that he was a big part of was the Marina Booster Station rebuild. And so this kind of was an abandoned site for the most part. And so we went in there and they put in all new valves. They did a complete house new valve rebuild. Travis had an excellent idea of putting a bypass PRV for surge protection. Because a lot of times our system was getting shocked by the pumps turning on and off. So he had a great idea on how to reconfigure the plumbing on that. New pumps, new motors, and new mag meter. So from the inside, it's the site from the 1970s again that went really untouched for decades. And then we went in there and redid all that work in there. And so that was a huge benefit to the district because it allowed us to have a significant cost savings in our electricity by being able to pump in off-peak hours on just the 3 little 75 horsepower pumps. So without the hard work of Travis and crew doing that, we'd probably still be working on the wells and be having much higher cost of our power. Another thing that I want to point out is Travis is always one of the first, and he's always willing to help out the other operators with their certification. So he takes great pride in certification, and he really pushes these guys to go above what their job requirement is. And that goes leaps and bounds because for the public that don't know, we don't just send any person off the street, hire them, and then get them on the water system. So these guys go out and get certified through the state, and their certifications that go anywhere from grade 1 to grade 5. And it's not just taking a test. It's you take the test, you got to pass it, but you got to have time and experience and grade. So there's a combination of things that require these certifications. And so Travis did a good job mentoring our new staff, really pushing them to get their certifications. And if you really look at our organization compared to other ones, we are leaps and bounds certification-wise compared to other agents. And Travis has been a big part of that. So thank you for that. Himself has pushed himself on certifications, and he has a D5, which again, that's the highest cert you can go in California. He has a grade 2 in water treatment, a grade 3 in collections, and then he's also the AWWA backflow tester and cross connection specialist. So a magnitude of certifications under his belt. He has a great demeanor. He's always easygoing. He gets along with his coworkers. He's very approachable. He's knowledgeable. He's got great ideas to improve the system. And so it's been a pleasure, Travis, the last 5 years, to grow within the industry and here at the district, and be able to work with you the last 5 years. I look forward to many more, as well as operations and maintenance staff. I'm sure I look forward to many more years with you. And yeah, thank you for your dedication and service for the last 5 years. So with that, I will turn it over to the board for discussion.
Thank you. So before the board is adoption of a resolution in recognition of Travis Einsweiler, lead operator for 5 years of service to the Marina Coast Water District.
So moved.
So we have a motion by President Schreiner, and again, a second by Director Moore. And any comment? Otherwise, we're going to vote on the resolution. And then we'll take public comment as to how wonderful Travis is. So we'll vote.
Director Imamura, Director Moore,
Yes.
Director Cortez is absent, Vice President Schreiner,
Yes.
President Morton.
Yes. So now we're going to invite people to speak before we read the resolution. I'm sure family members, Travis, would you like to tell us how much you liked being here for 5 years?
So I didn't write anything, but no, just a huge thank you to the district as a whole, special thank you to Derek and Joe. They've been great. So the last 5 years have, of course, with any agency, you're gonna have ups and downs, learning curves, but they've given me the opportunity to really just go full speed ahead in my career path, and it gave me the freedom to really showcase my abilities, so which is huge. So I never had that before with another agency, so to be here, Derek always says we are a family here. It's yeah, it's huge for me. So the support's been great, family support, everybody here, appreciate it.
Thank you. So it has a motion that's been approved, and it's been resolved by the Board of Directors of the Marina Coast Water District at our meeting on this date, that whereas Travis Einsweiler joined the district as a lead operator on September 3rd, 2019, and
Whereas Travis is a critical asset to the operations and maintenance department and has been a key player on many important projects since his tenure with the district. And Travis has put a lot of time and effort into obtaining state certifications and has taken on a mentorship role with the new system operators to help them obtain their certifications and grow within the industry.
And whereas Travis currently holds the California Environmental Water Association Collection System Maintenance Grade 3, State Water Resources Control Board Water Distribution Operator Grade 5, the SWRCB Water Treatment Plant Operator Grade 2, and an American Water Works Association Backflow Tester and Cross Connection Specialist certification.
and Director Moore.
And whereas Travis has a calm demeanor and uses his knowledge to foster a collaborative and learning work environment, and whereas Travis's hard work and efforts are noticed in the vast improvements within the water and wastewater systems, and his dedication to the district is very appreciated.
Therefore, it's now resolved that the Board of Directors of the Marina Coast Water District is hereby recognize and congratulate Travis Einsweiler for 5 years of service to the Marina Coast Water District, hereby presenting him with a plaque and a gift certificate. And we wish him many more years of success, and most importantly, many more years with our district. Thank you. So now is the time that we're going to present. Barbara, if you would come first. And we want to present you with, you got beautiful flowers.
They're beautiful.
things. Congratulations. We're so happy to have had you for 25 years.
Very exciting.
Pictures. And this is your plaque, which I will hold because you have way too much. And this apparently is money. Oh, money. Now that goes to Santos. Well,
We'll burn it.
all right.
You didn't say you couldn't invite.
25 years. Outstanding. Oh, comments from the peanut gallery about this?
No. The
I
hard.
didn't. Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped over it.
They're
No.
dying to get up and say something, I know.
Oh, we do want you to come. I thought they were gonna get up after Travis and nobody moved. We're good. I'm celebrating Barbara right now.
There we go,
Everybody
everybody.
just take a picture.
I'll
Take
take another one. All right,
Okay.
y'all over social media
Okay.
tomorrow.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, my apologies. When no one, I asked Travis and none of your buddies jumped up.
I'm too tired from working all day.
Okay, so we are now going to direct our attention to Travis Einsweiler. And I invite anybody in the room and or on Zoom that would like to comment. Please, Joe, thank you. Lead them off.
It's over, I can't believe it's been 5 years, but, it's been awesome working side by side with you. I know it's not said every day, but we do appreciate and recognize all your hard work. Want to wish you continued success and growth in your water and wastewater career. Congratulations on your 5 years. Appreciate it for all your hard work.
I just wanted to let you know that I really appreciate all your hard work. I appreciate your can-do attitude and that you are an imperative key to our success here at Mike.
Yeah.
Many more years. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Everyone else?
I would like.
Okay, that's it.
Boy,
I regret not saying anything last month when Kurt was up. Because he's so awesome, and so I want to, also recognize Kurt, but also say Travis has been great to, Derek runs a great crew. He's got a bunch of great guys, and Travis and the rest of these gentlemen sitting here are prime examples of that. And he's welcomed me in. He gave me crap about my chili last year. He's accepted me into the fold, so I appreciate that. And I just want to say thank you for everything you've done and the support that you give the engineering department and helping us, develop the systems to make the whole program better. So thank you.
There's one online.
I see. Jose Rodriguez, welcome. It's time for you to speak.
Yes, I just want to say, I just want to congratulate Travis, for 5 years. He's such a really good employee, coworker. A lot of knowledge, and he's never afraid to share, all the knowledge that he has. And I just want to say congratulations, Travis, for 5 years. And I hope you stay with us, for another 20, 30 years. So congratulations.
Oh,
So
sorry.
I just
Cutting
want,
people off.
you're really excited.
These people want their money.
I know, because I negotiated with this gentleman, right? So Travis and Warren were key to the employee association's negotiations
Oh.
for the contract. And it is the steady hand of these two gentlemen that led us through that process in an even keeled and successful way, I think, for everybody. But it's the leadership, right? It's the taking that mantle, as you know, right? Stepping into the breach with management, and I don't want to say it's hard, right? Going toe to toe, but bringing those demands into that space sometimes it's daunting. And so thank you for picking up that hammer, that stick, and coming into the room, because that can be tough. And you did a great job for everybody, and I super appreciate it. And then just the fact that you're willing to come in and say hi. And bug me is awesome. So, but my chili. I'm winning. I don't know when it is, but it's gonna win one of these days. I may knock everybody out, but I'll get there. But Travis, thank you. Fantastic.
And can I add?
Yes. Director, Vice President Schreiner.
I just want to add that I really appreciate everybody making time in their evening to come and honor these employees, the staff. I feel like I see you out in the field now and then, get a little away from the truck kind of thing, but I never want to interfere with the work in the field. But as a board member, I also appreciate seeing the people that we're having to make decisions for. It really helps, it just helps it feel more concrete that we are working together and we are getting these water services and wastewater services done. But thank you all for being here and for your hard work in the office and in the field.
So before this meeting started, I did take Derek aside and just said that every time that I come to these meetings and have the pleasure as being a director to listen to what our workers have contributed to our organization and not only the quality, but the true interest and investment in the success of Marina Coast Water District today and for our future. And so when we read these resolutions, it's very moving, and I appreciate that they're written so we get to know more about you as board of directors, but also for us to be able to just really hear the teamwork, the family type of atmosphere that all of you have come and communicated to us. That is very, very rare. And I admire all of you because that you're doing has nothing to do with this group of directors or past directors. That's you when you come to work, what you do, what you say, how you perform your job. And thank you. And from that now, Travis, now we're gonna pass out money.
She's been trying this for a while. How you doing?
So Travis, I'm giving you a plaque. So you saw the size of Barbara's?
Yeah.
So 20 years. You're gonna have 3 this size and then that one. So your whole mantle, it's just like getting an office.
Pile the bath.
I thought I got the same amount of money though.
Now you'll get more money each time.
That's what that launch.
Which I'm sure those 4 individuals over there would like to spend.
Yeah.
Yes, so that's okay. Is it okay if I just put my arm around you? Is that okay? Otherwise, I will shake
My
your
wife.
hand. There she is. Awesome. Thank you. Congratulations. Okay, so we're gonna take, what, 10 minutes to enjoy coffee? There's no coffee. It's cookies, thank you. For bringing, but also it's a chance for family members and staff to interrelate with us and we with you, most importantly. So thank you. And pictures, so we want to take Travis, you and your family in front of our logo out there on that giant wall. And Barbara, you and your husband out there also, and we'll get some of the board members and important staff that you would like to invite to join you. Okay, 10 minutes, which is 10 to 7. Draft minutes of our regular joint board meeting. Approve our controller and senior account job description and salary ranges. Approve a new water resource technician classification series. Approve a reimbursement agreement between Marina Coast Water District and Seaside Peninsula Acquisition Group, LLC, for McClure Way Phase 2 water pipeline improvements. amend our capital improvement budget to fund the Co-Avenue Water Pipeline upsizing project. G is the application for the California Department of Water Resources Water Desalination Grant Program Continuous Application Process 6 for the Armstrong Ranch Brine Treatment Pilot Study. That's a grant application. And H is also a grant application for the United States Bureau of Reclamation for a Water Smart Fiscal Year 2024-2025 Drought Resiliency Grant. And I is also a grant application for the California Office of Emergency Services State and Local Cybersecurity Grant Program. Those are the items on the consent agenda. The public has now been advised. And is there anybody in the public that wishes to pull an item? And I see Mark Kelly has a hand up. Mark, if you would like to address us.
Sure, I want to apologize. I want to comment on a couple of those items, not pull them.
Oh. Okay, that's acceptable. I'll let you do that presently and, well, hold on just a second, Mark, okay? Does any of the do any of the directors wish to pull an item? Director, okay, Director Moore has pulled items C and D. Okay. I'm sorry. Director Imamura has pulled items C and D. I'm looking for Director Moore to see if his hand's up. Director Moore, were there any? No, so he is shaking his. So we have C and D pulled. So now let me go back to the public. Items C and D are pulled for independent discussion. So Mark, are those the items that you wish to address, or is there another item that you just would like to comment about?
It was actually G and H.
Okay, all right. Okay,
But I don't wish to pull them. I just wish to comment on them.
so we are going to listen to your comments presently on items G and H of our consent agenda.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
First of all, I want to compliment the district on both of them. 6G, the Water Desalination Grant Program at Armstrong Ranch, if I've read it correctly, I think has a tremendous amount of potential as we look at seawater intrusion and extraction barrier. I'm just hoping, because I realize and I respect the fact that Marina Coast is its own GSA, but I'm hoping that this particular grant is being discussed with the Salinas Valley GSA, not asking for permission or anything like that. However, I think as it moves forward, the results that it can yield could be very substantially informational to the Salinas Valley GSA, particularly in North County, as they continue to look at the seawater extraction barrier and its effect on agriculture. So I think it's really positive, and I hope that communication is occurring, because I certainly know there's people in the North County in agriculture who find this to be really positive. 6H is a little bit different, but regardless of the fact, this the Bureau of Reclamation's Water Smart Grant on potable water supply, again, I hope is getting discussed with the Salinas Valley GSA, because I actually think in the North County, again, what's discovered there could be of real value to the GSA as a whole, but certainly to the North County. And I really want to compliment Marina Coast Water District on both of these grants. I think they have a really positive impact on not just the district, but what could go on in the North County as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. So I will just indicate that the Marina Coast Water District Groundwater Sustainability Agency works in conjunction with the Salinas Valley Basin Groundwater Sustainability Agency. And on all levels, we meet and share information. We do believe that the interrelationship of our groundwater requires the interrelationship of agencies overseeing it. So thank you for your comments in that regard. And I want to assure you that relevant information to our water system impacts on our water system are shared. So We now have I would request a motion for approval of A, B, E, F, G, H, I. I will actually make that motion.
Second.
Move.
President Morton made the motion, Vice President Schreiner seconded the motion. Is there any discussion on the motion as to the consent items A, B, E, F, G, H, I? Director Moore is shaking his head no. I see no members of the public raising their hand, and so we'll take a roll call vote.
Director Moore,
Yes.
Dr. Cortez,
Yes.
Director Imamura,
Yes.
Vice President Schreiner,
Yes.
President Morton.
Yes. So now we will return to our consent agenda matter 6C. And Director Imamura, would you like to lead the discussion?
Yeah, if I can just take these two together, these two positions for these, just reclassifications of existing personnel, or are they actually new positions or?
I think it's a combination of both. I would direct your attention to page 25, and thereafter in our report are the positions described in detail. But I'm also going to invite our Mary Lagaska, who will walk us through and answer your question.
So for the finance, division, we are looking at adding a controller position. And the current accounting supervisor is going to, the position of accounting supervisor is going to be reclassed to a senior accountant. And that, we have an existing employee, occupying the accounting supervisor position. And that employee, have the option of applying for the controller position. So, this is a net +1 for finance.
How about the other one?
The water resources technician, that is actually it's a new position, a new permanent regular full-time position. But right now we do have, that position, we did hire a consultant, for that position. So it's just, we are adding a full-time position, but, eventually it's going to be a wash as we, move that person from a consultant to a regular full-time position, you know, given she needs to go through the process.
Okay.
So it's a +1 on the regular full-time.
But these positions were in the financial forecast and are in.
Okay, so, it's been my experience, you know. Maybe it's different, you know, I came from a larger agency, but in terms of personnel. So, usually when there's a reclass or when there's an assumption, if you're gonna reclassify something, reclassify a position. And again, you're gonna assume stuff, but you would open it up and say, okay, well, you know, the person who's occupying a certain position and is generally looked at that they're qualified, and the idea is, well, they're probably gonna be the one to assume that new position, generally the promotion. But would you even look at maybe opening it up and say, well, you know, you're gonna have to compete for this position, you can't just.
That is exactly, our, plan. I plan on opening it up.
Right.
Definitely the current employee qualifies for that position. But we do, want to open up the position and just make sure that, you know, we get the best that the market can offer, given that this is a really, high position and very, this is a key position for the finance department. So I do plan on opening up the position outside, but we do have, the current employee, current accounting supervisor is definitely qualified.
Right.
She has expressed, her intent on that.
Yeah, I think if you have that philosophy, I think it's kind of a win-win for the agency, because not only are you gonna, you know, again, you want to assume, but you hope that if they're gonna compete, they're gonna be like you just stated. the best for that position. But you also wanna, again, look at possibly, opening it up and you just mentioned, having recognized by their employee who came from the outside and said, they bring a lot of things in, because maybe they have some new ideas and things, so. So thanks for that clarification on there. And I also wanted to ask, I know when I first started my term, we had I guess, I don't know the classification of the title of the position, but there was an HR person who had left. And part of from what I've seen, we haven't replaced it, and I guess we had assumed that we needed that HR person.
No, they're being done by an outside
So
agency,
it's an outside.
RGS.
Oh,
But if you look at the structure that's on,
So
the structure that looks at page 39, the administrative proposed structure of what we're voting on,
right,
the HR manager would be under the Director of Administrative Services.
okay, so
So-
that's what I was kind of getting into, so the idea that we're gonna bring that function back in-house
Yes,
with
and
a
then,
new position, basically.
yes, right now, we're just using the consultant, as we go, the consultant has been very helpful in, filling our positions and, leading us through navigating the HR
Right.
functions. But it's definitely a, plan of ours to fill the HR, manager slash risk administrator position, sooner than later, and that will now fall under the admin, department.
Right?
Any other questions?
That's it.
So I would move approval of consent items, 6C, C, Cat, and D, David.
Second.
Second,
We have a motion by President Morton and seconded by Director Imamura. Are there any director questions or comments that I missed? Director Cortez?
Yeah, I just want a question for Mary. For the water research technician 1 and 2, was that already built in the budget?
Yes.
The rates that
Was it?
Okay, so we have a matter pending. Anybody wishing to address the motion? I see no hands among attendees. Anybody? Is that hand going up?
Oh, no, sorry.
Okay, so seeing no questions, comments, we will take a roll call vote.
Director Cortez,
Yes.
Director Imamura,
Yes.
Director Moore,
yes,
Vice President Schreiner,
Yes,
and President Morton.
Yes. So items C and D have passed for the restructuring of our positions and creation of a new position for our controller. We have completed our consent agenda. We are now moving on to our action items. And we will be taking action on these items. First is item 7A, review of the Marina Coast Water District fiscal year 2023-24, preliminary unaudited year-end financials. And those of you following along, this is on page 82 of our packet. And Mary Lugaska is going to take us through this, our financial.
Good evening, board members, fellow staff, and the public. This evening, we present to you the preliminary year-end financial report for fiscal year 2023-24. Next slide, please. So, before we start, so this is a very high-level overview of our finances as we close the year. The numbers are still very preliminary, and we are still, and it's unaudited. We are still in the middle of our audit. So we don't expect any material changes to the numbers, and we do expect to bring the final audit to the board next month. So for tonight, I will be walking you through our fiscal year 24 numbers. I will be providing highlights to our operating revenues and expenses. I will be doing the same for our non-operating revenue and expenses. And lastly, I will be walking you through our reports. Next slide. So this, the summary here before you, contains the same information as table 1 or page 84 of your packets. So, so this is just broken down differently from what you have on your tables. The table of the report consolidates all your revenue and expenses and then presents the bottom line. So, the one on the slide, I like looking at the numbers this way, because I'm able to separate out, operating activities, which is the core of our operations versus the one-time transactions that fall under non-operating, activities. So as you can see from this table, our operating transactions, sorry. As you can see from this table, our operating expenses exceeded our operating revenue by 4.3 million. Our non-operating transactions generated a positive 9.3 million. Together, between the operating and the non-operating, that brings us to a positive net revenue of 5 million before transfers. After the 3.6 million transfer from operating to capital replacement reserve, our bottom number is a net revenue of 1.4. It's important to note that the 3.6 million is not an expense. It's a transfer from one reserve bucket to another. So, when you're looking at how the district performed, during the year, the key number to look at is really the 5 million net revenue before transfers. On the next slide, I'll be providing some key highlights to each of the sections. Next slide, please. Okay, so, this is the operating revenue and expenses. This next slide provides some key highlights to our operating revenue and expenses. The details of the operating revenue should be on table 2 or page 85 of your packet. And the operating expenses should be on table 3 for page 87. Overall, we did well on our operating revenue with a collection rate of 93% or 22.6 million. That's 10% more than fiscal year 23. We have water, sewer, and recycled water. Recycled water sales did well compared to their budgeted amounts. And we have other operating revenues that actually exceeded their budgeted amounts, like backfill revenue, land check fee, and developer fees revenue. Right. Next is our operating expenses. So overall, our operating expense went over budget by 8% for 1.9 million. There were some key expenses that led to this over budget, mostly on the admin side. There should be a note below on table 30 on page 87, which kind of explains the expenses that went over budget. So some of those are some non-cash transactions like depreciation expense and pension expenses. So those are non-cash transactions. These are year-end journal entries that are done to adjust our balance sheet accounts that we carry on our books. So for example, to increase a liability, we would book an expense. And if we need to decrease that liability, then we put a negative expense. So if these are adjustments done, but they don't involve cash. So we did have, I think around 3.2 in depreciation expense and 453,000 in pension expense that were not budgeted. Salaries and benefits exceeded our budget by 15%. If you recall, the MOU last year was finalized after the budget was adopted. So we were not able to capture the actual increase in, I put in a 5% placeholder, but we ended up with more than that. So that's and as a result, we are 15% over our salaries and benefits budget. Legal fees also, exceeded the budget by 1 million. And we also have the Ord office building. If you recall the tour that we did, we saw part of the Ord office, is actually a modular rental, buildings, and those costs 87,000 a year, and was not part of when we did the fiscal year 24 budget. But for sure, they're part of the fiscal year 25 budget. So those are 87,900 a year. Next slide. This is a continuation of our operating expense. Insurance cost also went over by 100,000. If you recall, when we were discussing the fiscal year 25 budget a few months ago, we did identify some key expenses that were growing beyond our control. So those were the insurance and PGA and so the fintech. So for fiscal year 24, we went over by 100,000. And then we also have some expenses under our operating expenses that are fully reimbursable. But they are part of our operating expense, and we have developer expenses and grant expenses as part of that. So we do carry the expense, but those are fully reimbursable from developers and from the grant. Next one. So for non-operating, transactions for fiscal year 24, our capacity fees fell short of our budgeted amount. We anticipated a lot of developments in the Ord area for fiscal year 24, and as we know, half of that construction were delayed and pushed back to fiscal year 25. So we did over budget on the capacity fees. But we did make sure when we were doing the fiscal year 25 budget that we scaled that down so that we can have a more conservative budget. Interest income, 1.8 million. That's 250% of our budgeted amount. Prior year, we had 1.1 million. So we continue to have a good year when it comes to interest revenue. And we also have some revenue sources that's part of the budget, revenue sources for the CIPs that did not come into fruition. So I did some adjustments at the end. Some examples of that is the CIP budget, we had 15.2 of grant funding. And those are that is for indirect potable use project and the tax reveal pipeline. Since we did not get those funds, and we did not execute the project. We also had 11.2 million budgeted in fiscal year 24 for a new bond, which we did not execute in 24, but we did execute in 25. So as you can see at the bottom of table 2 or page 85, I did adjust for those revenue sources, and that after that adjustment, that brings our overall collection rate to 89% between the operating and the non-operating revenue. Next slide. On the operating expense, we spent 490,000 on capital equipment. We spent 4.2 million on our CIPs, and we have our 6 projects that were completed, or at least figured no budget, they exhausted their budget, and that's this year. We also spent 1.9 million in principal debt service payments. So that constitutes our non-operating expense. Next slide. Reserves. So what I have here before you is a breakdown of our 24 reserves compared to our 23 reserves. So as you can see, overall, we did good. 31% overall increase in our reserve balances. That's good. But I do want to emphasize, But I do want to emphasize though that, a lot of this is, but I want to manage expectations. A lot of this is, drawdowns from our 2019 bond. When I first started, we did a lot of, catch up on our drawdowns, our grants. So a lot of this money is for, projects that we've already spent for. So, we are just, doing our part of bringing in the, corresponding revenue. So, that's why you see an increase in our cash. And for the last 2 years, we have been, there's a, increase in our cash that we are collecting on our receivable. Next slide. So this is a historical, our historical reserves, from 21 to 24. So, 1 year we generated $1 million, the following year around 10 million. Fiscal year 24, we generated 9.9 million, and an increase in our reserves. So, next slide. So that concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer.
Thank you, Director. Questions? Director Moore has his hand raised. We'll start with you.
Thank you very much. Mary, could you go back to slide 1? I'd just like to ask sort of broad question. And I also like the way you did present that information in slide 1.
Slide 1.
TL, can you pull up the slides again, please? Okay.
There we go.
Sorry, slide 2, the summary slide.
The next one?
I guess it's 3 technically.
That one?
That one?
Thank you. So the operating revenue, operating expense piece, that is something, correct me if I'm wrong. Oops,
Where to go?
He's trying to fix the view and, there we go.
Okay.
The man behind the curtain.
Thank you. So roughly speaking, shouldn't we endeavor going forward to have operating revenues and operating expenses be much closer together and generally speaking, not take a loss? Because, again, correct me if I'm wrong, that would be kind of unsustainable in the long term. We're covering it with things like capacity charges and non-operating revenues this year, which is fine, but we can't rely on that forever and ever. Is that a kind of correct interpretation?
Yes, definitely. I mean, our operating revenues should be able to cover our operating expenses. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
And we have identified, it's not that easy, because there are a lot of costs that are beyond our control.
Right.
But we do monitor those line items that we know are beyond our control, and we can't just raise revenues. So at most, we try to make sure that we make up for it through non-operating items.
So I'm going to ask a follow-up question, having had the benefit of hearing this presentation previously, is that part of when we were budgeting for last year ending 2024, we were still relying on a rate study from 2018, which set forth caps on what we could raise rates, even if we anticipated in budgeting that our expenses would exceed that we are required by law to keep our rate increases to what's in the rate study, correct?
That's correct. That's
And, so to Director Moore's position in budgeting as we go forward is that we just redid our rate study, and many of the unanticipated costs, or for example, the rate for PG&E, we in our rate study, I think we put 10% per year as increase that we have hopefully more successfully built into the rate study, that rates will generate adequate revenues annually to cover operating expenses annually. Is that also true?
Yes.
So Director Moore, to your question then, as a board and as a district, we have recognized this. We've had to make budgets within the confines of constructs of law, but we are not anticipating to take a 4.3 revenue loss year in, year out, because as you said, that's not smart.
Right. And just to point out, this is, as you've mentioned, this is bound up with doing rate studies and the Proposition 218 process, a process we typically do every 5 years. But it is a process that costs our ratepayers some money and certainly costs our staff a fair amount of time to go through that process. If inflation unexpectedly hits us during that 5-year period, the board might at some point in the future have to consider doing an earlier Proposition 218 study and new rate study to keep up with what's going on in the market, or what we have to pay for chemicals, and personnel, and electricity, and insurance, and medical care, et cetera, et cetera. Thank you.
And I also do want to emphasize again that, yes, we're short 4.3 on operating, but 3.2 of that and 425,000 in depreciation and pension expense, which is a non-cash transaction.
Right.
I want to follow up on that 2.2 depreciation expense. Is it normally not budgeted, or we just kind of?
We've had that conversation during the committee. It can go both ways. I've done it both ways. Ideally, you would budget for it. However, fiscal year 24, when we were doing the budget, it was really light. Our operating reserves were not that great. Money was really tight. So, we've had that conversation with the general manager, and I'm like, if I budget 4 million for depreciation, that's 4 million I'm taking away from other departments to use. And
It becomes dead cash.
Yep.
so we knew that, it's not a cash transaction, so, I would have taken away from other departments to budget for my depreciation. So we did make that decision, not to budget for it at the 0.1.
If you remember, when we went into 24, we had about 6 million in operating reserves. So it would have left us with 2 million operating reserves. Truly, the 4 million is still there, the 3.2 million is still there. It's still available for the board to utilize. It throws our cash position out of whack. So it's either going to do it on the front end as we go into the budget, meaning that this kind of block of money is just held in limbo until the next year, or see it on the tail end as a negative transaction against your closing, against your closing statement.
So my understanding of depreciation is basically your assets are depreciating. You've given every asset a life expectancy. You've divided that over a period of time if you use straight line depreciation. And you're saying, so the assets, the pipes in the ground, the pumps, et cetera, all have less value, but you're not having to spend money. But in our renewal and replacement in our CIP, we're constantly addressing that. So if in fact we were not addressing renewal and replacement in our CIP on how we're going to replace the lifespan pump that's dying, then these depreciation, having them in an account as you call dead money, would be much more important, I would think, at least from my standpoint. You need to have the money someplace, but we're chasing it in our CIP projects. So as our items are getting to the end of their useful life, we already have that in a CIP, capital improvement program budget, of when they're going to be replaced or fixed, et cetera.
Yeah, I think an odd
So that's how I look at it,
non coincidence is we removed 3.6 million
which is the
into
depreciation.
capital reserves, and the depreciation is 3.2 million.
Right.
So they're almost a 1-to-1. It doesn't have to be that way, it's just happens to be that.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is we're a tax exempt entity, so depreciation has no value
Right.
Right, all it does is net off the value on the books, our net present.
But as a director, what I'm always looking for is when the equipment fails, how are you gonna pay for it? And so in some ways, in the simplistic accounting, that's what depreciation is about, is setting aside the money to replace it. We do it a little differently.
Yeah, I guess the way I was seeing it is that as we move into this new fiscal budget, I would be looking for that to come again, right, the depreciation, and not suddenly we're tight again and suddenly it's off the books, and then in FY 26 or fiscal year 26, 27, you see it again, so that inconsistency. Because to me, that's, although we have a good explanation, the public doesn't, right? The public sees it a couple of times and it kind of goes in and out of the books, and that's what, to me, when I read that it was not budgeted in, I was like, well, why? And then you reminded me why it wasn't budgeted in. I was like, okay, that makes sense. But the public doesn't have that kind of window, and so I don't want the public to feel like we're moving kind of like money around, you know, so.
No, it's a decision that management made in terms of how we run this. If the board would like us to shift the other way, right? Because I think the issue for me is consistency.
Yes.
And that's
Yes,
what I'm hearing.
that-
So if we want to move away from this practice, that's fine. We'll move to the other practice, but it's going to change how we present numbers to the board in the future. That is, so you're trading the recognition of a negative for unavailable cash. Right? So getting away from that conversation just requires that we've set aside additional cash to deal with the depreciation.
That makes me wonder though, with this unavailable cash, it would still be making some interest revenue.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Nothing's happening to dollars.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is purely paper account.
Yes.
yeah. We're not putting it under the mattress.
No. I can get it all wherever it is, right?
Okay.
I guarantee you, it's in an interest-bearing account, making 4 to 5%
Yeah,
happily.
okay. Well, it's something to revisit maybe then in the budget of the coming year.
So I'm not, was it inconsistently done in 2023 from 2024?
Not so sure about 23.
I thought we had a footnote like that in 23, but my memory could be
I'd
wrong.
have to go
That
back.
we did not carry it as an expense in 23. We did, but
So
yeah.
the expense is always gonna be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, right,
But
no,
we budget for.
right.
Yeah.
I don't think it was included in the budget. My thing is, I think at least the last 2 budget cycles, it was not included as an expense.
Yeah, because it's really tight when we're doing the budget,
Mhm.
like super tight. So 3 million, was really, during that time was really, other departments would have less resources.
Yeah.
Hopefully, as we build our concern consistency, we'll have to budget. for that.
Well, the financial forecast runs that out. So everything that we've done for the last 10 months, oh my gosh, we started last November. But everything we've done since then has been to develop the financial forecast, build the rates model so that they're working, build the budget so it works. So we're on the right track.
Okay, I have to ask the question. If we budgeted for it, if it was in our budget and we set aside the 3.2 million. So then we come to the next year and now we have depreciation again. That 3.2 million is dead money in the bank because we budgeted it. It's sitting there. The next year, when you have another 3.2 million, does it get added?
No, so remember.
Or does that just get carried forward?
Remember, we
I thought
have
you added
now
to it.
moved away from the idea that we're pushing money into the reserve accounts and then taking money out of the reserve accounts at the same moment.
Right, but if you're
Right.
if you're making a depreciation bucket, I'm gonna call it a bucket because that's your language.
Yep.
If you make a depreciation bucket, then it just sits there.
Sure, and then that's something that the board's gonna have to talk to, but I think where I wanna go with the question is This year, we had to move 3.6 million into capital reserves. Next year, we won't have to because it's already there.
Okay.
So that 3.6 million then is available for the operating reserve and to cover this expense, should the board decide as we move into the 26 budget to cover it with cash.
Okay, so the cash that gets set aside in the 26 budget, come 2027, you can just use that cash again for your
Over and
20.
over and over and over and over.
That's my question, or do you accumulate it?
No.
Okay, that was my question.
So whatever the depreciation value is, and that's based on the amount of capital assets that are on our
Got
capital asset
That's
list
what it sits there.
and what things are falling off, that number is generated in that space. What we
Okay.
use to cover that value.
Can be the same money
Can
over and
be
over.
the same
Okay,
money.
that was my question. Okay, so any other question? Okay, consistency, I think we heard loud and clear. Director Imamura.
Question, so, as we keep going forward, you know, our personnel costs are gonna continue to keep going up, it's a big chunk. Now I'm talking about, you know, salaries and benefits, and you had a line item there on pension obligation, or pension. So since the district is part of CalPERS, what do? Do they just send a message and say, hey, this is the amount low for this year, or what? Is that basically it? So, or is, what I'm getting at, is there a way of anticipating what those are gonna be, or all of a sudden you're gonna get this envelope in the mail saying, from CalPERS saying, hey, you guys owe this much this year?
No, we do get, yearly valuation reports, and that valuation report doesn't only cover the current fiscal year, but there are projections for the future. The next few years, they have estimates there already. So we know exactly how much we will potentially owe or have to pay. And, throughout the year also, they do provide, webinars and updates to us if anything changes, if, let's say their rate of return, changed, or they did not meet their expected rate of return, and how is it going to affect the next year. So we get those updates, but we do get a valuation report that has the projections already.
And it's the same thing with, employer provided health benefits for retirees in terms of cost. Because those are gonna keep escalating.
The health, we don't get that forecast, at most 1 year in the future, but we don't get that, the scalpers can cover up to, I don't know how many years, 5 years maybe. But, health is harder to predict.
Right, hopefully we don't get some big spike, you know, from year.
Yeah, so I think we're insulated a little bit because part of the JPIA.
Right, okay.
But we still do see that, you know, it's a little bit of a black box. The OPEB is a little bit easier, right? Because we're in that trust and we're getting that trust down. But yeah, the actuarials for CalPERS, they're usually pretty good unless the market gets really crazy.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
That was just knocking on wood.
Yeah, okay, so, thank you, Mary, for your report. We received and appreciate your reviewing the report with us. We now move to our next agenda item, which is 7B. No? I skipped. No, 7B. Sorry, it says Taylor. Oh, no, it doesn't. It says Garrett. I read the wrong line, Garrett. I'm sorry, I'm going to have the wrong item, but I do not. So this next item, Garrett Patel is going to lead us through whether to award a contract to Quovo Solutions, Inc. for phase 1 of the Security and Access Improvement Project. And I believe we have a representative in the room with us from Quovo. And I forgot your name, I'm sorry.
My name is Eli.
Eli, okay, so if we have questions.
Yes, thank you, Madam President, Madam Vice President, Directors. I bring before you this item to award a contract to Quovo Solutions for phase 1 of the Security and Access Improvements Project. This is a budgeted CIP in this fiscal year. It was anticipated for. We have worked with, Tio and I have worked closely together to put out a RFP that we solicited 13 different qualified companies. We received 2 formal responses that we were able to, review, of which, after extensive interviews that, we conducted with those two prospective bidders, we selected Quovo as a solution that could meet the needs of the district. As part of that, we reviewed what options there were for, we started off as the base bid was for the 3 office locations, which are the 4th Street Board office, the courtyard here at the IOP on the A side, and the beach office. We made sure that any of those assets, the locking doors that'll have key cards, cameras, motion detectors, all of those types of facilities and functions will be able to be redeployed. So if we pull back from the beach office, and move those assets over to the B side, that is a capability that is available. So it's not a sunk cost, which is good. We also, after, as part of that RFP, made sure that the solicitation included additive bid items for as many remote locations as possible to be able to utilize the budget that we had anticipated for this. And so Tio and I worked closely with Derek to go through, make sure that there was not any redundancy through his SCADA controls and things like that, and make sure that the security and access control would give us the adequate coverage. And we focused on sites that we determined, as I said with Derek, that were critical and the ones that we felt that deployment would be the best option. So what we've done is, like I said, we had budgeted this project, as you see on page 95, where it is split up amongst the different cost centers, and where those remote locations, the list of sites that we're going to cover. I will point out that, in the end, there is a remaining budget of roughly, 20.5 thousand, left over from the project budget. But this was what gave us the most comprehensive coverage given the cost center split. Are there any questions?
I do.
Go ahead, Vice President Schreiner.
And so I'm trying to imagine that there will be some different levels of security, because I was kind of wondering about board member cards, like we'll be able to get into this building.
Yes, so that is one of the things that that Tio and I made sure was a function of the RFP, was that we would be able to in-house create cards, and we would have access to control whose card is able to get into what sections. So a board member may be able to get, to use this room as an example, you'd be able to get in the front door. If we say had a security door right here to get down this hallway, you'd be able to get that far, but you wouldn't be able to get to the back offices, say, or you wouldn't be able to get to some of the more secure locations. Somebody, maybe an intern would only have access to areas that they would need access to. And we could revoke, that's the other thing that's really nice about this, is we could revoke those privileges instantaneously. And given the state of affairs in where we're at today, I think that that's definitely a critical thing to have the capability to do.
Thank you. And then I also wanted to clarify a little bit on the bottom of page 94.
Yes.
Because there is a year 1 estimate that was bid, and then there's a phase 1 mentioned. Is it just a phase 1 and a phase 2, or how many phases that we're looking at on it?
Yeah, it would be split into 2 phases. So we're gonna see how this, and it would probably be not next fiscal year, because we would go through this process this year, run it, see how we like it, see how Derek likes it, see how you guys like, just get a feel for how we as the staff and the public are able to utilize those controls, and then do the rest of the sites in fiscal 26.
Okay, thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Question? Director Imamura?
Yeah, question two on page 91. You have the tables for the two proposals. Why is such a big difference there? It's like twice as much. It just,
Well, a lot of it had to do with licensing costs. A lot of the physical hardware was very similar, mostly due to the fact that we spec'd out the cameras need to have this capability. The doors need to have, these types of locks and this capability. They need to be powered so that in the event of a power failure, we can solve them. So it really came down to the annual licensing costs of each unit, because each camera has to have its own license. So that's really where the costs.
yeah, I just wondered if they even wanted to, maybe just threw it out to see, like if it sticks, because the annual storage cost of, I guess, Volvo is 0, and then you got 172 for, I don't know. We kind of wonder what, are we getting what we're supposed to be getting,
Yeah.
So, I don't know, that just kind of.
Is that data storage? Okay, thank you.
Data storage and off-prem access storage.
Yeah, it was almost like, no such thing as a free lunch, and it was like, what? I don't know, there has to be somewhere else, but again, I don't know how the business model works, and I assume you guys checked it out.
Yeah, we conducted, and Eli can speak to this, we conducted significant interviews over quite a period of time to make sure that the decision thought through all of those things.
Director Moore?
Yes, thank you very much. So you all know that we own the office building that the DLM occupies. It's leased out to them, so we're not responsible for their security. But I'm just wondering if they have been made aware that we will be doing this because they might potentially be interested in, piggybacking is the wrong word because I'm not suggesting that they be part of this contract, but with the company being here already set up doing a bunch of work for us, BLM might be able to get a bit of a break. And who knows, maybe the company would give us a finder's fee, but BLM did a contract with them.
So we're not gonna worry about it.
I'm just wondering if they were aware, that's all. It's a question for staff.
Staff, do you know if they're aware?
No.
If not, they do not know if they're aware.
Thank you.
I have, any other questions, Director Moore?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. So my question is, I'm reading 94, page 94. So the first year, the 1,014,000 is, that includes the first year licensing fee of the 11,643, correct? So that's not a separate licensing fee. Okay, so that's included in that. My next question is, the licensing cost is 11,642. Does POA have control of that licensing cost? So I'm asking these questions because I see such a disparity in these two bids in the licensing cost. Is that within POVA's control?
I don't believe so, but I'll have to defer to Eli on that question.
I'm happy to speak on it if that's okay.
Please.
Right.
I'm looking to make sure it's fixed, is what I'm looking for.
Yeah, so I have not seen any other proposals, any competitive proposals. So our numbers are based on, so we are a integrator / reseller, right? So we work with the manufacturers, in this case Motorola, who owns Avigilon. Avigilon has a cloud-based product called Alta. They do a licensing, just like every other software these days.
we do have some wiggle room within our, margins to cover the cost. That being said, being that it was a competitive bid, we approached it as best price possible to put our best foot forward. We also negotiated extremely good discounting from Avigilon. Being cloud-based product, generally the hardware tends to be a little bit more expensive on the per camera side, but then you end up making, the way that it kind of functions is you have the recurring licensing costs. So what we have, as far as I know, the last pricing that we have discussed is a 1-year license, which would then be recurring on a yearly basis. Motorola also offers a 3, 5, or 10-year licensing, depending, and those prices are structured based on Motorola.
Okay. So once all of this is installed, the equipment is ours. And so if we want it serviced by somebody other than Quovo, not saying we're going to, I'm asking the question, is that is feasible, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So you need to stay competitive. Okay, those were my questions. Any other questions, Director Cortez?
So you have, I'm looking at page 94, and the timeline for completion is 5 months. What's the kind of approximate when we will start?
As soon as we are, we have an approved contract, we can start the next day.
Okay.
Quavo, you're ready to start the next day?
We're ready to start, probably October at the point, but yeah.
Answer your question.
That's your question.
Any other questions? Okay, so, anybody want to make a motion?
Approval.
So Director Moore made a motion to approve the award of a contract to Quovo Solutions for Phase 1 of Security and Access Improvement Project.
I'll second it.
Director Cortez has seconded the motion. Any discussion? There is no attendees at this point with a hand up. Were you saying
There's just
something?
a phone, do they know to do the
Oh,
star
is,
nine, right?
so is there anyone in Zoom that would like to address the motion? There's a phone number ending 001. If you want to speak on this matter, I don't have a name for you, but you can unmute. It is *6 to unmute, and I see that you have made sure you're muted.
Oh, no, I think that's still giving the option.
Oh, there we go.
I have no comments. Thank you for asking.
Thank you very much for acknowledging I was talking to you. Thank you. Okay. No, that was very polite.
What?
Amazing. So, okay, so we're ready for a vote.
Director Imamura,
Yes.
Director Moore,
Yes.
Director Cortez,
Yes.
Vice President Schreiner,
Yes.
President Morton.
Yes. Okay, so we are going to be getting upgraded security system. We will be seeing more of you, Eli.
So,
And you got all of our admonishments about making sure the price remains favorable to us.
it's pretty good.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
such a good deal.
Okay. So that brings us, that's the end of our action items in this meeting, but we still have some informational items, and we always start with our general manager's report
I'm getting coached over here.
for the
Talk fast.
for the
That's
show
what the
of
coaching is.
shows. Go ahead.
Right, so, just a few items for the board, first, you'll see on the dais,
Yeah, that was
the
nice, thank
completed strategic plan found for you, for your enjoyment. Now management will start developing, the action plans to meet the objectives as identified by the board. So thank you very much for everybody's hard work. Thank you for all of your edits. Thank you for working together with the team and wonderful team. Super appreciate it. Over the last 2 weeks, or actually last week for the most part, I met at a number of meetings that I'd like to update the board on. First, was the presentation of the deep aquifer study to the County Board of Supervisors. That was given to them as a received item. That item was received by the board. Oddly enough, it was a 3-2 vote, which was kind of weird, but okay.
They
Anyway.
received a report on 3-2 vote. They voted on receiving it?
Yeah. They did some weird stuff with it. But the point is that by receiving it, it's an official document of the county, which means that the county recognizes that the basins are all in critical overdraft, and that should there be any application for a well, would fail on its CEQA determination. So,
Did the directors understand that?
yes, that's what I figured too. So,
That's wonderful.
on other meetings, so I met with the city manager for Sand City to discuss the acquisition of their desal project.
Is this
Uh,
public?
Yes.
Okay.
And so, interesting enough, in that conversation, the Seaside County Sanitation District came up as an issue for Sand City in terms of connections and support and all that stuff, which was kind of odd. So, staff is gonna go back and look at how we can potentially help Sand City with their sewer issues. And maybe help them run their side of the system, but we'll see what happens. But for the most part, we've opened up the lines of communication. We have apparently never really spoken to them. So
They're small.
their city manager didn't, small but mighty.
More money than anybody.
But they're looking for help. And so as a regional entity and pursuant to our strategic plan, we're reaching out to help out. Last week, at the end of the week, I had the pleasure of a number of meetings in Sacramento. The first one, I met with Paul Goslin, the Deputy Director of GSA's issues at DWR. Paul is pretty much the guru of all things GSA. A number of issues that we have, but one predominantly is that the GSA is our service area. And it was created that way. When we annex the parcels that we're about to annex, that will expand the district's service area and thus expand the GSA. Well, I wanted to make sure that he and his team were aware of this fact and to find out what documents we needed to make sure that our GSA expanded appropriately. In that meeting, which went very well, thank you to our consulting teams on Harrow. They helped us set that meeting up. We were informed by GSA and DWR staff that the GSA, they would like to see the GSA fill the full Monterey subbasin, less the Corral de Tierra. So we will be writing the necessary documents to expand to the full breadth and girth of the Monterey subbasin.
Don't understand that. For the Marina Coast Water District
Yes.
GSA, not the Salinas Valley.
Salinas Valley.
So my second question, if you don't.
Sorry, just interesting is my only comment, interesting.
So my question is it removing portions of the basin from Salinas Valley? It's just,
Right now,
so tell me how it's,
right now, there are parts of the Monterey subbasin
that are not
within any GSA.
oh,
They would like us to expand out to the full boundary, less any other GSA.
okay.
They want us to expand into this territory, regardless of whether there's federal entities in it or not. So as federal entities, they're not governed by the GSA. They stand outside and above. But if they're in our boundary, then they can be inside our GSA boundary and we can help them. So it's a good thing.
It sounds like a good thing. I'm just trying to be able to reiterate it so that I know what we're talking about. So currently our GSA, and I remember all the fights about everybody's GSA and territories. City was trying to become a GSA at the time. I sat on city council then. So our GSA is our service area. And since our plan was approved, have we not annexed additional service areas?
We haven't, pursuant to a letter from the state board, our GSA immediately puffs into that space.
So so we've already done that.
We've already done that portion. What's about to happen, Patrick's moving us into this much larger annexation. So we're gonna add about a third of the district when we do the state park stuff and the BLM stuff and the Farm Ranch. So when those things happen, that's a much larger conversation. And so I wanted to make sure that the GSA folks at DWR knew this was happening and not just go rushing in with our letter saying, hey, you already said that our service area is
Right.
We need to produce some documents so this can happen. So the good thing is that Paul and his team
Say
said,
yes.
hey, hey, they're all on board. This is an administrative function as long as we're not pushing into anybody else's territory.
Okay, so not only did they say that our new properties have been annexed in our service area, but they want you to go beyond to what was the boundary?
To the Monterey Subbasin boundary, less Corral Chair.
Okay.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
that takes us, I'm sorry, I just have one more question. I'm trying to make sure I have a picture in my brain. So the Monterey Subbasin boundary, and that takes us right at more in the area of the national park corridor. That's exactly where I'm headed. Thank you.
Yes.
That, I'm trying to understand. Thank you.
Yeah, my comment is we already have a coordination agreement with SPB GSA that recognize the Marina Ward area as our management area within the Monterey Subbasin. So it's not something new. And I get you, I don't want to discuss the history that we actually got screwed by DWR. But they're being nicer now.
But they want to be friends.
Yeah, and actually I've worked for Paul Gosley used to be the Butte County Water Resource Conservation Department Manager, and I've been Butte County's Water Council since '91, so I've worked a little bit with Paul.
Well, thank you for bringing him into our good graces too.
So there's
So
that.
that's good. Okay,
That's
I'm
good.
just,
My next meeting was with, essentially with the Secretary of Natural Resources, Wade Crowfoot's office, his water policy person, Nancy Vogel, to discuss our Armstrong Ranch brine pilot project and to discuss funding opportunities. If you remember at the Coastal Commission, Secretary Crowfoot promised us, support. So I'm continuing to try to cash that check. The grant one of the grants that you approved this evening is that grant. Oddly enough, DWR has about $1 million left in its little bucket, even though the state is out of money. It will open this grant cycle number 6 for $1 million. It will open for 5 days, open close. So we are set in the pocket. The policy, Nancy knows that we're coming. This is a good idea for them. It's good for us. So we'll see what happens. But we're making sure that the well is primed for success.
when is that 5 days?
Oh, I don't know.
It's
when the
okay, I
5 days
just
is.
don't know if it's imminent,
Yeah, yeah.
like next
It's
week
imminent.
and we're ready.
No, yeah, that's why we had to go tonight,
Thursday.
yes.
I think
Okay,
it starts Thursday and
Yeah.
ends Monday.
Okay, so you guys are ready.
Yes.
Because it includes Saturday and Sunday.
Yes, it does. Yeah, I love those. Then I also had the pleasure of meeting with the CAO, the Chief Administrative Officer for the State Water Resources Control Board, Eric Oppenheimer. Eric and I go back about 20 years. And Eric Egdahl, the Deputy Director of Water Rights, who is also the agent in charge of the CDO. So it's very important that I communicate with them after the Laird meeting.
Right.
Because I was not invited to speak. And so being able to talk to him about talk to those gentlemen about the CDO, about the additional availability of water that CalAm has and that it continually reports year over year over and above its demand needs, as well as to provide a copy of our Peter Mayer report showing the future supply and demand stuff and all that, but not to get into the CPUC territory and not to enter into CMIX. So they were open to the conversation. I said we weren't interested necessarily in lifting the CDO. We like the CDO, but what we think needs to be modified is the moratorium. So that meeting went very well. Beyond that, we conducted meetings with PUC staff. So we have met with all but one of Coastal Commission. Yeah, next week. No, it's
This week.
Wednesday. So we've met with all of the PUC staff members for the commissioners, save one. I'm going up on Wednesday to meet with
Baker?
Matt Baker, with Commissioner Baker, to discuss the supply and demand phase 2 as it relates to CalAm and how it's portraying its supply and demand numbers, and to point them at the testimony that we provided. That was in like.
Well, it was before you had a little gray hair here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
A while ago.
yeah, it was a while ago. Anyway, we're pointing them to the testimony and all of that, making sure that they're looking at it. We've had really positive responses from most of the staff members. They've asked really good questions, been able to steer them at the testimony. Yeah, so, we're taking care of that, so that was good.
I just want to say this is a very good point that you made in your meeting with the individual that's responsible for the CDOs.
Oh, yeah.
Is that it's not, nobody wants to lift the CDO on how much is coming out of the river, but you're saying there's enough water to lift the meter moratorium. And I don't think that distinction is made often enough.
I would agree.
And so you just called that out to me, and I'm glad that you called it out, because I know that Laird meeting, that was a big focus as it was framed from Laird's office, was what is required to lift the CDO. And really, that's not the issue at all. It's what's required to lift the moratorium on connections, on meters.
Yeah.
That's an excellent point, and one that we should be drumming up more frequently, publicly, yes.
I mean, CalAmp has complied with the CDO.
Right.
So, I
right.
mean, that should be discussed.
And,
there.
but it's odd that it's worded that way.
I know, right.
It's odd that it's worded that way. And there was for those that didn't know, Senator Laird organized and invited particular CalAmp, David Stoll's organization, CalAmp, David Stoll's, Paul Shuto were the people that got to address, and the DWR came down, their staff on the moratorium, but it actually, State Water Board, but it was particular staff, I can't, resource management.
Yeah. Eric Dahl, the Deputy Director of Water Rights for the State Water Resources. He has the authority inside the order to modify or extinguish the order.
Right. So unfortunately, it was an invited audience for 3 hours or so, but MCWD, we were invited to attend, but not to comment. So the information was very stilted and probably did not do a lot to move the needle, although I'm not Senator Laird, so I don't know. So the fact that Rem is now, as our representative, talking to the same person at a direct one-on-one and making those distinctions is very valuable, I think, to our community in total, but most importantly, to continuing to further why the CalAmp project is not necessary. So I'm taking the time to talk about this because I think it's important for all of us to have a true understanding of what the machinations are behind the curtain. Okay, thank you.
Not a problem. So, another point. So a couple things on the GSA. First rain, our first weather station. We have 2 more weather stations ready to go to set up our 3 points. But our first weather station recorded 0.07 inches.
Today?
So first rain as of September. This is an early one for us. We continue down this track. And then, our water monitoring, our trolls. So these are the sounders that sit inside wells. They are Tobias and Katie are doing a fabulous job bringing that system online. And I look forward to them working with ops to put our well measurements against our troll and water depth measurements. And it'll be fun to watch the aquifers as they perform with our trolls. So we know what pump down curves are, recovery curves and whatnot. So that's fantastic. And then lastly, should I say in progress announce? Did we know that we got it tonight? We got it. Okay. So we are the proud recipients of the Water Resources Customer of the Year Award this evening down in Garden Grove, California. Unfortunately, we're here at this board meeting, but Paul is receiving our portion of the award. This is for our recycled water project. And so once again, Pure Water Monterey brings home the trophy.
Are they going to bring it over here?
Yes. So we'll have it in the boardroom for the October meeting. But congratulations to everybody. I mean, we've invested in truly a fantastic project, groundbreaking project, and it has delivered. It's what I said all over Sacramento. It delivered 100% of its promised yield plus.
Right.
So right now, there is almost 3,000 acre feet of pure water Monterey water sitting in the reserve bank in the Seaside Basin. This is fantastic, right? And we will continue to deliver that Plus, as we move into Pure Water Monterey expansion and beyond, this project is successful. The money that we have put into it, the effort that we have put into it has yielded success, and it is a model. So congratulations, everybody. Job well done. Correct.
Did you say 3,500 acre feet?
3,500 acre feet. Yes,
That's like more than our entire
it's
district.
a whole year plus
Yeah.
of our water, and it represents a third of Callahan. Yeah.
Thank
We're a regional leader.
We are a regional, leader.
I'm saying that.
and strangely enough, we're in the top 20 of county water agencies in the state. Out of 154, we're number 20. In terms of staff and
Thank you.
Okay, we are moving on to committee and board liaison reports. The executive committee. Director Schreiner, other than we approved the agenda, is there anything else you
That's
want?
what I recall, agenda review.
Yep.
Yes.
That was it. You guys saw the product of our work tonight in this staff report. Budget and engineering committee. Vice President Schreiner, do you want to, or? I
Yeah,
think we ought to see that here.
yeah, we had a really nice preview of tonight's year-end financials. We had a lot of time to ask questions and consider future budget considerations, possible reconfiguring that will roll out to the board as soon as we totally understand it and really grasp every detail of it. So thank you, Director of Administrative Services. It's complicated and innovative. There was also a review of a request for a conference, and I appreciate that all of us as board members are doing the best we can to lead by example, looking at the budget, and we can all think ahead to if we want to expand the budget for future training for directors. That's something to think about, so I encourage everybody to look at your websites for 2025, and beyond, maybe to spring 2026, to think about which trainings you really want to go to, because we want to keep within the budget line items as leading by example.
So I just want to follow up on that. So the Aqua conference, December 3 through 5, from the budget engineering committee, we requested that the on-demand designated conference recordings be acquired by the district and be made available to all of our directors for our edification. So I know that's being looked into. If we buy it in advance, it's cost of $250, and every director, we're anticipating that all of us will be able to log on and view that at our own pace. So you'll let us know when we have that. And then the other thing that I wanted that came out of that discussion was in May, I think it's May 24, 25, is a conference here in Monterey. Is that also Aqua? Aqua conference
spring.
in the spring, May 24, 25. So directors wanting to attend that, we would have enough money. We have 3,500, I believe was how much is budgeted in this year for conferences, and that should cover the ability for admission for the directors. I put it on my calendar. Director Moore, you got those dates. Director Emmer, you got those dates, May 24, 25. So that was the budget and engineering. Yes.
It's May 14th.
Oh, May 14th. Are you telling me I put them on the wrong dates?
Update.
Not
the right month.
Yeah, well, somebody told me, I put it on my calendar at the exact same time. And you told me it took me too long to do that. You were thinking. Okay, so those dates are May 14, 15. And it's in Monterey at the Convention Center. And so next is Joint City District Committee. We actually had a meeting, and I think it had been more than a year. It's
Last
been
December.
Last December. So 6 months, not quite a year, 6 months since that committee. Director Imamura. You were present, right? Do you have comments you want to talk about?
No, not really, you know, it's good to have those. I guess we kind of, postponed that one for a little while and then we met, but I think it's valuable to me. However, I kind of think maybe we should maybe meet twice a year. I don't know, meeting once a year, you go.
So if, I would let you recall, or I think you were here when we
Yeah.
did this, was that we used to meet every other month. And that was decided, especially with the closure of Fora and all of the things that that entailed, where the city and Marina Coast Water District were making many more decisions and votes, not only in our forum here, but at the Fora board. MCWD obviously could not vote, but the city could, and the conversations that were provided to us by the district were invaluable. So, we then we were going to do meetings quarterly. MCWD posting 2 a year, and the city posting 2 a year. So we have mapped that we have posted 2. And the city has not elected to host any. So that's why it's so infrequent. And then even trying to keep it on a 6-month schedule, because we do 2 a year, 6 months apart. People were unavailable because of summer travel or other commitments. So that's why it's been 8 months.
Yeah, I was kind of curious, you know, like I said, I can't keep saying that I'm a newbie here, but, you know, I'm always kind of wondering, you know, our predominant ratepayers in the city of Marina. So you think that their council or whatever would take a little bit more interest in wanting to meet. So I'm just a little puzzled as to, you know, we should be partners and have a little bit more dialogue with you know, maybe sometimes we meet, there's not that much to talk about, but I can't imagine, you know, with all this.
Well, I'm confident that our 6-month meeting will be scheduled. I'm confident, but that's the only thing we have control over.
Yeah.
So the meeting is effective. The meeting allows REM to update the city to council members as Kathy Biala and Elizabeth Fisher and Lane Long are the 3 people that come. And it allows MCWD, through our spokesperson that knows what's going on, to update them, make them aware of the things that are happening. It is also an opportunity. This time, the big discussion was the city has been requested 1.9 acre feet for a housing development.
Yeah, so the interim project.
And they only have 5 acre feet left of water. And so the discussion went about that the city manager believes that that water can be limited and restricted to city land. And so that other third parties coming in and saying, we want water, the city can say, no, this is ours. So it was an informative discussion, and these are why these meetings are invaluable, is that they're unaware that MCWD is in the meantime looking for moving forward with alternative water supply, new sources of water supply that will then allow the city to have water, this is on the Fort Ord lands, have additional than their allocation of the 6,600 acre feet that got divvied up. In downtown Marina, they're fine. So these discussions are always valuable, you're correct. But
I'm just kind of curious, so kind of going back, switching hats, your hat. When you were on the council, were you their designee when you met?
Johnson, yeah, I was here every 2 weeks, every 2 months. I sometimes was 5 minutes late, but I was here.
And you found those meetings to be valuable?
Yes,
Yeah. So, I don't know, maybe.
but we were also dealing with former corridor issues,
Oh, okay.
for issues. Because MCWD had a seat at the table, but did not have a vote.
Now we got big development.
We did.
We got
We
a
were-
lot more, residential going up and all these things are happening. And so I wouldn't think that we're lacking things to talk about. But, maybe it's individuals, I don't know.
I don't know, but also those projects were entitled before 2020, before Fora closed. The ones that have been going forward, new projects are coming forward, so. So we invite the city to schedule their meetings. So that's what I have to report about the joint city water. Anything else? Okay, M1 Water Board Member Liaison.
Very much. Excuse me. Last meeting was on the 26th of August. 3 action items. One which had quite a bit of discussion was this audit that was commissioned by the County Water Resources Agency and County of Monterey over primarily past charges in a specified 5-year period. Charges that Monterey One Water billed to Monterey County Water Resources Agency. The auditor had found that made the allegation that Monterey One Water had overcharged. After some work with the auditor, the amount of the overcharge was reduced from an additional draft amount of 1.8 million down to around 1 million. There's still some disagreement between Monterey One Water and the auditor over those exact amounts, but at any rate, the board received a full briefing on that audit at the 26th August meeting. In addition, the board approved some new interruptible rates for taking wastewater, primarily targeted at the Salinas industrial ponds, from which we take wastewater and treat it sometimes at the request of the city of Salinas. Those rates had not been updated in quite a while, and the update did substantially increase several of those rates. And then finally, there was an amendment made to the general manager's contract at Monterey One Water, mostly trying to keep up with inflation of salaries, which we're all experiencing. Next meeting is on the 30th of September. And one other comment with respect to that audit. We are continuing, Monterey One Water is continuing to have its chair and vice chair meet with the chair and vice chair of the County Water Resources Agency for discussions to revise the agreement in a way that most accurately, but not too inconveniently for staff or the public to understand the ways in which indirect costs are included in the bill that gets sent to the County Water Resources Agency, because it was indirect costs that were a lot of the issue that the auditor found of believing that Monterey One Water not used the proper procedures for calculating indirect costs and were charged indirect costs primarily. So a commitment has been made by both County Water Resources Agency and Monterey One Water leadership to meet and work through how to deal both with the $1 million bogey and also how to revise the service agreement between Monterey One Water and County Water Resources Agency in such a way as to better recognize what portion of indirect costs they ought to be paying for the services they receive from Monterey One Water, and to do so in a way that makes sense to the public and doesn't require someone with a PhD to figure out whether the calculations were done right or not. That is my report.
Thank you. Thank you for staying up.
Madam President.
Yes.
It's only 5 in the morning.
Good, the baguettes are being made right now. Madam President, the outreach committee was unable to meet,
Oh, right,
only because one of our members is currently
out of the country.
out of the country and the other member was ill. So,
Bummer.
I know.
He had the better shift.
He did.
Yeah.
Hey, he's getting baguettes right now. so.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, while the general manager manages baguettes, my wife is making me eat stuff like this.
Oh, my dude. Wait, there's a below.
Health food.
Oh, come on, Brian.
It's fruit.
I don't know if it's tomatoes, I don't know what.
Tomatoes. Tomatoes. Health
Tomatoes.
food.
Healthy.
All
Yeah.
right.
She's keeping you thin. Yes, go ahead, Director Inamura.
Tom, was there any, fallout with regard to the 180 on the building?
Oh, yeah.
Any discussion about that, or was everybody just kind of like,
So you're talking about the non-change in Monterey One Water billing. Is that what you're referring to?
right?
So right now, staff has been scrambling since that June vote to resurrect the old billing system, bi-monthly billing system. So for the moment, Monterey One Water is sticking with that. That has taken quite a bit of staff effort because we had turned off the contract with the third-party billing company. And when you have to send out approximately 47,000 paper bills once every 2 months, that's a fair amount of work and a fair amount of cost. We've had discussions about what we might do going forward to reduce some of those costs. And those discussions have yet to produce any particular specific outcome that I can report on. Options include finding ways to get a large fraction of our customers to go to electronic billing, automated payment systems. There is discussion on the legal side as to whether or not our legal counsel properly interpreted the law when the June vote was taken. There's been some doubt cast on that by an outside law firm. So now we have two different legal opinions. What the heck do you do with that? That's always a lovely situation to be in. So I don't have a lot to report. And there have been some internal discussions that I've had with our own GM about things we might do for our own customers to mitigate some of this situation. So I'm sure he'll be reporting on where we might go in that regard at some point in the future. Does that answer your question?
Somewhat. Thank you.
You're quite welcome.
Oh, and bonjour.
Merci beaucoup, monsieur.
Okay, board member requests for future agenda items. Our next meeting is October 21 at 6 p.m. Does anybody want to suggest something for the agenda? I don't see anybody rushing to give us any ideas. Lastly, we're on director's comments. We're gonna let Director Moore give his comments so he can go to bed.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your tolerating me coming in by Zoom. I know it's sometimes a little weird, and I apologize for whatever the freaky initial connection problem was that got me into the meeting a little bit late. Good work, staff. Thank you.
It's hard to believe that we can attend meetings from around the world, isn't it? Think about it.
Pretty amazing.
Director Cortez, do you have comments you'd like to share?
I'm happy to be back. So
We're happy to have you back.
feels good, you know. I know, and yeah, I feel like it's only a month that I missed in September, but it does feel like a while. So yeah, I just want to thank the staff as always. You guys do amazing work. Thank you, Paul, for the cookies, and thank you for the great work you guys do. So
Good luck with school.
yes, thank you. That's where I was.
Director Imamura.
Yeah, again, I'm always, well, not always, but, it's good that we recognize people's good work here, and it's good that we take the time to have resolutions to, again, recognize, well, in one case longevity, 25 years, and then, of course, another one for 5 years. So, and appreciate the managers for recognizing their subordinates for doing that, and all the staff, and Mary again for doing all that work with the budget, and also, board members too for serving on their respective committees. So really appreciate that.
Vice President Schreiner.
Well, I was thinking that we should take a moment to think about Happy Dia de Saints, because this is a special day for our neighbors to the south, which at one point was really us as well, right? We're a part of the Mexico history, and this is a special day, and I've been noticing around town, people driving with big flags, and I was just like, what's that? Oh, yeah, that's right. This is a big, over the weekend and today was a big celebration of some of my neighbors. So I just want to say happy Dia de Saints. It's a really hard fought battle, I'm sure. And thank you to the staff. I really appreciate that you all take time to make small speeches, recognizing the people who do the hard work here at the district. And I really appreciate they bring in their families and their support teams, and really enjoy their moment in the spotlight. But it's nice for us to meet them. Thank you.
So I think I've made my comments earlier when I got to talk to Barbara and Travis. And I'm sorry that I just did that. Anyway, so thank you to the rest of you also. They shine, they're happy, they're dedicated because of the leadership that the people at this table provide. And so thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, and with that, we're adjourned. We'll see everybody October 21. It's 8:30. Everybody, please note, it's 8:30. You're going home.
Paula, can I still submit a chili even though?
What is it? You're a judge? You're a judge. That's why we invited you to be the judge.
I was like, no.
They give us all the.
I was like, I want to get a chili. I was like, wait.
Are you a judge?
Yes,
He's
I'm a
the judge. October 24th.
Get somebody else to replace you. I think I might. I'm like, Rem, I want the top prize. Yeah. Yeah.
I'll check my calendar. Do you want me to swap with you?
Although I still feel bad for like voting for the vegetarian